The pasta carbonara was sitting on my dining table and getting cold. I had just made it, but now no one was eating. My dad was standing near the window, pointing around my apartment like a real estate agent showing a house to buyers. My mom was sitting at the table, scrolling on her phone and checking prices from different moving companies. My sister Novira was sitting next to her husband Draven. Both of them were smiling in a big, excited way, like they had just won a prize. I slowly put my fork down and waited to hear what they were planning. "This place is wasted on just you," Dad said. He walked around my 3-bedroom apartment like it already belonged to him. "Why do you need 3 bedrooms? You work from home. You're single. You don't have any kids. Meanwhile, your mom and I are squeezed into that small retirement community apartment. And Novira and Draven are paying crazy rent across town." Mom didn't even look up from her phone. "The spare rooms are just sitting empty," she said. "It's selfish when family members need space, and you're not using it." Novira nodded quickly like she completely agreed. "We already did the math," she said happily. "Draven and I will take the master bedroom because it's the biggest. We need the closet space too." Then she pointed toward the hallway. "You can take the smallest bedroom," she said to me. "Mom and Dad will take the middle bedroom. And we'll all share the living room and kitchen." "Share," I repeated quietly. "Of course," Draven said. He was looking around the apartment walls carefully, almost like he was measuring them in his mind. "We'll need to change some things, though. This simple style you have is kind of sad. We'll bring some real furniture and decorations. Add some color. Make it feel like a real family home." Dad turned away from the window and smiled at me kindly, like he was doing me a big favor. "We're not trying to bother you, sweetie," he said. "We're just being practical. You have extra space you're not using. We're family. The family shares with each other." I stayed quiet for a moment. "When are you planning to move?" I finally asked. "Tomorrow morning," Mom said brightly. She finally looked up from her phone. "I already booked the movers for 9 a.m. Novira and Draven's lease ends this week, so the timing is perfect. Your father and I can move out of the retirement place by the end of the month. We're already there month to month." "Tomorrow," I repeated slowly. "Don't worry about getting ready," Novira said, waving her hand like it was no big deal. "We'll handle everything. You just need to clear 2 of the bedrooms tonight. It shouldn't take long. You barely have anything in those rooms anyway." I took a sip of water and thought carefully before speaking. Behind my dad, through the window, I could see the entrance gate of the building. There were security guards standing there like always. Dad had walked past them earlier without paying much attention to them. "Did any of you actually ask where I live?" I asked. They all looked confused by my question. "What do you mean?" Dad asked. "You live here. We're sitting in your apartment." "Yes," I said. "But do you know exactly where it is? Do you know the building rules or the district this building is in?" Mom frowned a little. "The Fairmont building," she said. "Obviously. We've been here many times." "The Fairmont Residences," I corrected gently. "On Embassy Row. In the international district that is designed for diplomatic workers." The room suddenly became very quiet. Draven looked confused. "So," he said slowly, "it's just a nice neighborhood. That's why we want to move here." I pulled out my phone and opened the housing agreement that I had saved there. "This building isn't a normal apartment building," I explained. "It's protected diplomatic housing. It's managed by the International Relations Bureau. Every person who lives here needs special security approval." Dad laughed a little, but it sounded nervous. "Sweetie, you're not a diplomat," he said. "You work in tech. You do computer stuff." "I'm a senior cybersecurity analyst for the State Department," I said calmly. "I've had that job for 6 years. My clearance level is top secret with sensitive compartmented information. This apartment is part of my government housing package." The laughter stopped right away. "Government housing?" Mom asked softly. "Diplomatic housing," I corrected. "It's only for State Department staff, Foreign Service officers, and approved international workers. The whole building requires security badges to enter. There are armed guards in the lobby. Every visitor is logged and checked." Novira looked pale. "But we've visited before," she said. "Yes," I said, "because I registered you as a visitor at least 48 hours in advance. The building did background checks on you. And I had to stay with you the entire time you were here. You've never come here alone. You've never had building access. And you definitely don't have permission to live here." Draven quickly started Seerang for something on his phone. His face slowly changed as he read more information. "This is ridiculous," Dad said, but his voice was weaker now. Are you saying we can't stay with our own daughter because of some silly government rules? I'm saying you cannot move into protected diplomatic housing without federal authorization, I replied calmly. You would need background checks and security clearance. That process takes months. And even if I wanted you to move in, I added, which I don't because no one asked me, it still wouldn't be allowed. Mom slowly put down her phone. Her hands looked shaky. You could have told us this before we booked movers, she said. You could have asked before booking movers, I answered. You didn't ask me anything. You just announced you were moving in tomorrow. You measured my walls. You picked bedrooms. You called my home family property. No one asked if it was even possible. But we're family, Novira said through a shaky voice. Family does not override federal security rules, I said gently but firmly. This building follows the same security rules as embassy property. If someone tries to live here without authorization, they don't just get told to leave. They can be arrested for trespassing on secured government property. The apartment felt very quiet after that. What happens tomorrow? Mom asked quietly. When the movers arrive, I explained, they'll be stopped at the security gate outside the building. The manager will check the authorization list. They'll see that no one has permission to move into my apartment. They'll deny entry. And if someone tries to push past security anyway, the guards will contact federal law enforcement. Draven looked back at his phone again. It says here, he said slowly, that unauthorized entry into diplomatic housing can lead to federal charges and up to 5 years in prison. That seems extreme for the family, Dad said weakly. It's not extreme when someone breaks security laws, I said. This building houses government analysts, officers preparing for overseas assignments, and sometimes foreign diplomats under protection. Security here is taken very seriously. Novira started crying. Her mascara began running down her face. We already told our landlord we were leaving, she said. We have nowhere to go. You gave notice without confirming you had another place, I said. That was your decision. Dad tried one last time. We're your parents, he said. You'd really let us be homeless instead of helping us deal with some paperwork? There is no paperwork that fixes this, I said firmly. You cannot live here. This is not my personal apartment that I can share however I want. This is government housing with federal security requirements. I don't have the authority to move anyone in. Then where are we supposed to go? Mom asked, her voice shaking. You can stay in your retirement community since you're month to month, I suggested calmly. Novira and Draven can extend their lease or find another apartment to rent. These were the same options you had before deciding my spare rooms belonged to the entire family. But you have so much space, Novira said angrily through her tears. 3 bedrooms for one person isn't fair. I have 3 bedrooms because my job requires them, I explained. One room is my home office where I work on classified projects. Another room stores encrypted equipment. Both of those rooms are locked and restricted. You've never seen them because people without clearance are not allowed inside. The only regular room here is my bedroom. At that moment my phone buzzed with a message. It was from building security. Miss Wren, we have your family registered for a dinner visit until 8 p.m. Please confirm they will be leaving on schedule. I turned the phone so they could read the message. Security tracks every visitor, I explained. Your authorized visit ends in 20 minutes. After that, they will ask you to leave. Ask, Draven said hopefully. Escort, I corrected calmly. With armed guards if necessary. The next morning, at exactly 8:47 a.m., my phone started buzzing with messages again and again. Dad, the movers are here but they can't get through the security gate. Mom, security won't let them enter the building. This is so embarrassing. Other residents are what rang. Novira, please come downstairs and tell them it's okay. All our things are in the truck. I didn't answer immediately. Instead, I walked to the window in my living room and looked down from the 7th floor. Below me, a large moving truck was parked outside the security perimeter. My family was standing next to it, waving their arms and arguing with the guards. 2 armed security guards stood calmly at the checkpoint. They were looking at their tablets and shaking their heads. Another message appeared from Novira. They say we need federal authorization. Azariah, please help us. All our stuff is in this truck. We literally have nowhere to go. I sighed softly and picked up my phone. Then I called the building's security office. Hello, I said. This is Azariah Wren from Unit 7C. I heard there is a situation with a moving truck outside. Yes, Miss Wren, the guard replied politely. Your family members are telling us they have permission to move into your apartment. We explained the authorization requirements, but they're becoming upset. They do not have authorization, I said clearly. They were informed yesterday that this building does not allow unauthorized residents. Please follow the normal protocol. Understood, the guard replied. We will require them to leave the property. I hung up the phone and stood near the window. I watched quietly as a third security guard walked toward my family. They had already been stopped at the entrance of the building. The guard spoke to them calmly. The conversation did not last very long, but I could see my dad getting upset. He started moving his hands around while talking loudly. The security guard then picked up his radio and spoke into it. After a short time, 2 more security guards arrived. Now there were several guards standing near my family and the moving truck. The message was very clear. My family had to leave right away, or the guards would make them leave. Just then my apartment doorbell rang. The sudden sound surprised me and made me jump a little. I walked over to the security monitor beside the door and looked at the screen. It was the building manager, Rowena Blackwood. I opened the door. "Good morning, Miss Blackwood," I said. "Miss Wren," she replied politely. She was holding a tablet in her hands. "I want to apologize for the trouble that happened this morning," she said calmly. "Your family members tried to enter the building with a moving truck. Our security team stopped them at the entrance because that is our standard rule." "I understand," I replied. "I already explained to them yesterday that this building has strict federal security rules. But they said that you had given them permission to move in." Rowena nodded slightly and continued speaking. "One of them, your father, became very upset with the security staff. He raised his voice and said he would call his lawyer. He also accused our staff of treating him unfairly." I closed my eyes for a moment because I felt embarrassed about my father's behavior. "I'm sorry about that," I said quietly. "You don't need to apologize for their actions," Rowena said kindly but firmly. "You are not responsible for what they did." She looked at her tablet again. "However, I still need to file an official report about what happened. Any attempt to enter diplomatic housing without proper permission must be recorded and reported to the State Department." She looked up at me. "I need your statement confirming that your family members did not have authorization to move into this apartment." "They definitely did not have permission," I said clearly. "They told me yesterday that they were planning to move in today." I explained the security rules and told them it was not possible. Rowena began typing notes on her tablet. "Were you under any pressure when they told you about their plan?" she asked. "Did they try to force you or threaten you?" I thought carefully before answering. "They believed I would agree with them," I said slowly. "They already hired movers and brought a moving truck. They even chose which bedrooms they wanted in my apartment. They kept saying that my home was family property." I paused. "But they did not directly threaten me." "Understood," Rowena said as she wrote more notes. "For the record, Miss Wren, even if you wanted to let family members stay here for a long time, there is a formal process." She continued explaining. "You must submit special forms at least 6 weeks in advance. Everyone must pass a full background check. You also need written approval from your department head. In most cases, the full process takes 8 to 12 weeks. She looked at me kindly. "So their plan to move in today could never have worked." "I told them that," I said. "But they didn't want to listen." Rowena nodded again. "The moving truck has already been escorted away from the property," she informed me. "Your family members left in their personal vehicle." She added one more important thing. "Building security has also flagged their names. If they try to visit again in the future, they will only be allowed to enter if you approve it first. And you will need to meet them personally in the lobby." "That sounds appropriate," I replied. Rowena paused for a moment and looked at me with a softer expression. "I have been managing diplomatic housing for 15 years, she said. "Situations involving family members happen more often than people realize." She sighed gently. "Sometimes people think security rules can be ignored if the situation involves family. But that is not how federal security works." She gave me a reassuring look. "You handled the situation correctly, Miss Wren. Please don't let anyone make you feel guilty for following the rules." After she left, I slowly walked back to the window and looked outside again. The moving truck was gone. My family was gone too. Everything at the security checkpoint looked calm and normal again. It felt like the building had returned to its usual peaceful routine. Meanwhile, my phone was still buzzing with new messages. I looked at the screen. Novira had sent a message that said, "Novira, they made us leave. Our things are still in the truck. Where are we supposed to go now?" Dad had written, "This is completely ridiculous. We are filing a complaint. You cannot treat your own family this way." Mom had sent a message that said, "Please call us. We need to talk and figure out what to do." Draven wrote, "We had to rent a storage unit for all our stuff. It costs $400. You need to pay for it." I stared at the messages for a moment. Then I turned my phone off. 3 days later, I received an email from the State Department Housing Office. The subject line said, "Unauthorized access attempt, security report filed." The email explained everything that had happened. It described how family members had tried to move into secure diplomatic housing without permission. It also mentioned that they claimed they had approval from the resident, even though they did not. Security had officially documented the incident. The email also asked me some questions. Was anyone pressuring me? Did I feel threatened? Did I need extra security protection? I replied with a simple answer. No one forced me. My family made plans without asking me first. The situation has already been resolved. I do not need additional security. Less than an hour later, they sent a reply. Understood. Your file has been updated. Please remember that any long-term guests must follow the official approval process described in your housing agreement. Thank you for maintaining security protocols. I leaned back in my chair in my home office. This was the same room Novira wanted to turn into Draven's gaming room. But this room was not for games. This room was where I worked. It was where I held secure meetings and handled private government communications. My family had called it wasted space. But to me, it was an important part of my job. I turned my phone back on. Immediately, dozens of missed messages appeared on the screen. There were 17 texts from Mom, 23 from Novira, 9 from Dad, and 4 from Draven. Almost every message asked me to send money to cover their moving expenses. I did not reply to any of them. Instead, I opened my housing agreement and started reading it again. The document clearly explained the security rules that protect this building. It explained the background checks required for residents and guests. It also described the legal consequences of trying to enter diplomatic housing without permission. Everything was written clearly. Everything was official and legally binding. My family had tried to say that my apartment belonged to the entire family. But the law said something very different. 2 weeks later, I received an envelope through the building's internal mail system. Inside was a handwritten letter from my dad. "Azariah," it began. "Your mother and I have returned to our retirement apartment. Novira and Draven found another place to live, but they are struggling financially after breaking their previous lease. We are very disappointed in how you handled this situation. Family should always come first. But you chose government rules instead of helping your own parents and sister. We believed we raised you to care about family loyalty. Maybe we were wrong. When you are ready to apologize and fix this situation, we will be waiting. Dad." I read the letter one time. Then I quietly placed it into my paper shredder. No apology was coming. I refused to feel guilty. They had tried to take over my home without asking me. They ignored the law even after I explained it to them. And now they wanted me to apologize for protecting my own home. The shredded pieces of paper fell into the trash bin like tiny pieces of confetti. Outside my window, the security checkpoint continued guarding the building. Inside my apartment, the 3 bedrooms remained exactly the way they were meant to be. 1 bedroom was mine, and the entire apartment was safe and protected by federal law. My family had called it wasted space. The State Department called it diplomatic housing. But to me, it was something much more important. I called it home. And the authorization forms my family never tried to get, the forms that would have taken at least 12 weeks to approve, proved the truth. This was never family property. This was protected federal housing. No amount of arguing could change that. The security rules were clear. The legal boundaries were strong. And my home stayed exactly what it should always be. Mine.